Border War 116. We're setting the scene. Can CSU keep their Mountain West Championship hopes alive? Bring the bronze boot back home for the first time under Jay Norvell. We're talking about that. Power rankings, Week 12 picks, recruiting news, and more. Boom. Good morning, y'all. We are back with another edition of DNVR Rams Live. I'm Justin Michael. We've got Dre back. We're in studio. We're talking about the border war. How you doing, my friend?
Doing very well. Very well. Great to have you back. Great to be back, frankly. Obviously, you've been giving us all the Rams coverage this whole time. And boy, how things change, huh? Just a couple weeks away from each other. And it's a bright new world we live in.
Hey, man, you about 2-3 weeks ago said that you thought CSU would run the table. You thought they would win out. That was prior to playing New Mexico, prior to playing Nevada on the road. So far, that has stayed true. But, man, they have got a massive game coming up at home.
The next two feel really big.
Yeah, I mean, they're must-win scenarios for you at home. I mean, obviously, you're trying to play for a Mountain West championship. You've likely got to win out to do so. There are some scenarios where you could drop one and still make it, depending on if you got some help from some other teams along the way. But this is a game with real stakes. Jay Norvell kind of said it last week. This is what they have been striving for, to be as a program, to be in a position when you're in mid-November, you're playing relevant games, when you have an opportunity to, frankly, win the type of games that people remember. I mean, September wins are great. That's all fun and dandy, but at the end of the day, like, this is when the games really matter.
November.
These are the
football.
Moments that define your season. Yeah, November football, man.
Yeah, no, it's make or break time. It's really exciting. The Mountain West maybe not quite as weak as we thought. I think San Jose State and the Rams have kind of upped the quality of the conference. This Wazoo team's really interesting too, huh?
Yeah, you could argue that having to play Washington State and Oregon State probably was bad for a lot of the Mountain West teams this year. Obviously, if you're CSU, I think you would have rather played a Mountain West team than going on the road to Corvallis, and Washington State might be ultimately who keeps New Mexico out of a bowl. They put the final dagger in San Diego State, basically. I mean, they've been a thorn in the side. It's been interesting to see kind of how that dynamic has played out. But hey, if you're CSU, outside of the Oregon State trip, you got a really favorable conference slate. You didn't have to play Boise State. You didn't have to play UNLV. Obviously, you've got more home games than road games. There's a lot we liked about it. There was a lot of reasons why we felt like this team could be intriguing this year. Mm-hmm. And to their credit, I think they've done a good job of, one, obviously reinventing their offensive identity, but two, not letting a bit of a sluggish start really derail things, because they took some lumps early on, especially as they figured some things out offensively. The defense has improved as the season has gone on pretty significantly, actually.
Oh, in a massive way.
And I'm not sure that some of those Rams teams in the past were mentally tough enough to kind of be able to even put themselves in the position that CSU has this year.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think what stood out to me in this most recent stretch is, in not too long, Norvell and his staff has this Rams team in the trenches looking like, they're in a different tier. They're in a top tier level. I can't remember the last time we were seeing the Rams on both sides of the ball bullying their opponents. Now, I could talk up that defensive line since we've known each other the last 7 years, and ultimately it didn't mean much, right? Because we always liked
they rushed the passer well.
I'm sorry, the defensive line.
Yeah,
did I say that
yeah.
right? Right, they'd rush the passer well, but yeah, it wasn't really an identity. It wouldn't show up in third and short. It wouldn't show up in the goal line on the red zone. Now it's showing up, man. They're bullying people, and that linebacking duo is awesome, right? So it's not just the line; it's that front seven. They're able to bully a lot of their conference opponents right now. And the O-line, we've talked about it. You kind of felt the change last year, right?
Yeah, they improved significantly in pass pro a year ago, but the run blocking wasn't there as consistently. I think also just having more talent in the backfield has been a big factor as well. And Avery Morrow's back in shape and healthy and all that again. But yeah, I mean, whether you look at what they're doing on both sides of the ball right now, they're winning in the trenches. They're running the ball efficiently. They're effectively stopping the run. They're protecting the passer well, and they're generating a pass rush, which has been one of the biggest keys. And I think, frankly, it's kind of the biggest difference with this team versus some of those other teams. Obviously, you can get into the nuance and the schemes and all that. Like stylistically, it's very differently, but just fundamentally, the Rams are the type of tough physical team that would have come into Fort Collins and bullied some of those flashy CSU teams that we saw in the past and punch them in the mouth.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there is just a different maturity, completeness, and it's a program built on solid foundations is what I think we're trying to get to. And when you have that solid foundation, even if you might be lacking some of the flashiness you've had in years past, some of the playmakers you've had in years past, maybe your quarterback's not playing at the level of expectations 4 quarters, consistently, you're still able to overcome it because the foundation you are built on is exactly what you're able to lean into and rely on and get you through these games. And I think we're seeing a team progress, we're really seeing a team progress where they're taking care of business in the games they're supposed to. It's kind of
they're closing, man. They're executing 4-minute offenses when they have an opportunity to. They're starting quicker. I mean, they're starting and finishing better, which has been a big key for them.
And how about having that advantage in the trenches, that solid foundation, and then you're winning games on special teams as well, right?
It's just so nice to not be a liability there. Like,
it's amazing.
I see a lot of people try and discount special teams, especially there's like win rate type statistics that are largely predicated on like total yardage and that type of stuff. And basically, if you get a bunch of turnovers and you make plays on special teams, they'll say that's a fluky win. But to me, the best teams are good on special teams. The best teams are good in the red zone. The best teams get timely turnovers, and they don't have the type of turnovers that kill them. And so to me, it's like, yeah, you can poke little holes here and there, but I actually think not only like are they doing the little things right and increasing their margins in a way that this program had not done in the past, I think they're close to really doing what they've been doing well, winning in the trenches, running the ball, just dictating the tone. But I think they're close to breaking out and having some more of those explosive plays. I mean, you look at the Nevada game alone, you have a 41-yard touchdown taken off the board for a ticky-tack holding call, in my opinion. You had another one that's just a flat-out drop. Can't throw the ball any better. Should have been a 6-yard bomb. I mean, if you want to nitpick and be like, well, if you don't add that play, okay, but you're also 2 plays away from that being like a 30-point win.
Well, and to start the game in the first quarter, what really breaks it open is 2 long bombs, right? And 2 separate drives. So they're finding ways in spite of not having... You
don't have Torrey out there, which is a big factor. Right? And they're looking to stretch the field, which I think is going to be a big factor because like in that Oregon State game, especially late in the game, after running the ball so much, Oregon State was basically putting 9 in the box and daring CSU to go over the top, do anything else. And the Rams were kind of hesitant to, and I think it hurt them in that game. I think we've seen a more concerted effort these last couple of weeks to be like, look, we know we've got to put more points on the board if we want to keep this up because it's hard to win. You're going to have a game where you give up, 27 and you got to put 30 on the board. But I just think the direction of this team is really encouraging. But obviously, this one means more. I wrote a column for the DNVR Diehard. Shout out to everybody in the Toyota chat rocking with us this morning.
Let's go Diehards. What up,
please
Aaron?
Go check it out if you have not. But one of the things I just kind of hit on was this is the most optimistic we have been about CSU football at this position of the season in quite some time. They have an opportunity to win 2 rivalry games for the first time since 2015. They have an opportunity to win 6 or more league games for the first time since 2014. You have an opportunity to play in the Mountain West Championship game for the first time ever since it was introduced back in 2013.
Crazy.
You got to win this game against Wyoming, though. Not just about the Mountain West Championship and all that stuff, because that's kind of gravy. Like, if you get to the title game, that would be amazing. But that wasn't the expectation coming in. Like, at that point, that's just kind of wow, like what an incredible run that we've put together.
Yes.
The Bronze Boot, Wyoming, like these are the games you look back and remember. I mean, 116th meeting all time. This is the 78th consecutive year that you have played. This game just holds so much more weight in the community. And I obviously the CU game was brutal this year. You had that one not go your way at home. If you then come up short with another epic atmosphere and another big rivalry game, all of a sudden you're kind of in that Bobo territory where it's like, yeah, it's great. We're competitive. You're in the mix. You're winning 6, 7, 8 games, but you're not winning the games that actually matter. And historically, if you look back at like any season to remember for CSU, I mean, there's a few here and there, but I mean, I can literally go all the way back 2014, 2013, the McElwain years, 2008, the Lone Bowl year under Steve Fairchild, 02, your last conference championship year, 2099, conference title years, 97, maybe the best team ever, 94, first WAC title team, 90, first bowl team in 42 years. All of those teams beat Wyoming.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of a key. It was circled at the very beginning of the year. This Air Force, CU, they were the key games,
those are your pivotal games. They swing you one way or the other.
The basic achievements for this year was having a positive record in those rivalry games, making a bowl, having a winning record. You've already achieved 2 of those 3. You're right there. You're right there, man. And with Bull leaving the program, you knew you could get Wyoming. And while they should be favorites and are at home, you can't overlook this team because they're finding ways to stay in it with opponents they probably shouldn't have hung with to this point, right?
They've been frisky. Every game in league play, they've been right there in it. Some bad turnovers have cost them. They've made a QB change. We'll talk about that in just a second. But yeah, I mean, I've talked about that, whether it was CSU, going into Boulder last year and they're like 27-point underdogs or whatever. And I'm just laughing like that's asinine. There's no way in which this game is not tighter than that. Obviously it ended up being a double overtime thriller. But you look at this game, a 10-point spread when it opened in favor of CSU. I'd be shocked if this isn't a 1-score game. I know there are times where the Rams have been able to blow out Wyoming, and God, that'd be a party in Fort Collins if they were able to get one of those, get a 2014 where you're up 31-7 in the second half, 2013 where you win by 30 up in Laramie. But the reality is that despite the fact that this season has not gone how they wanted, if they retain that bronze boot for the 4th year in a row, they come into your building and prevent you from having an opportunity to go to a Mountain West title game. That's a win for a lot of vets on that team that are continuing to fight and continuing to play hard despite having a train wreck of a year.
Yeah, and you see what kind of juice another starting quarterback can give them. It's a Friday night game too, so there's a little extra there.
You got a little bit of juice in the atmosphere. They're shout out to CSU. I really commend what they're doing institutionally. They're pulling out all the stops. They're going to have the giant flag on the field. They're doing a drone show. Like, they're doing everything they can. The pizza for the students. Like, this is a big game. This is a massive pivotal moment for CSU. Like, if you had been able to beat CU at home earlier in the year, that would have been incredible. But I mean, this is a league game. This one has just so much at stake. And given the history and frankly, just given that there's no guarantee that CSU Wyoming will continue to be a yearly rivalry. Like, both athletic directors are going to say that they want to keep it alive. And I think there is genuine desire on both sides to keep it. But I mean, logistical scheduling issues, petty politics, there are a lot of things that could come into play. It's going to make you sick to your stomach if, 10 years from now we look back and it's like, damn, CSU lost the last 6 games against Wyoming in the Mountain West.
100%. And this one, it's clear, like,
you're the better team.
At home should win. Friday night, lit atmosphere. It's just like everything lines up. That's kind of a great comment by Ryan Gilbert. You see that in the Toyota chat here?
It's what it's when you're sitting there early in the year and offensively it's a struggle. And for those listening, Ryan commented, it's clear to me now that Jay committed to this new style of offense so vehemently, struggle to pronounce that one.
Oh yeah,
that nice. He wasn't willing to air it out against CU and the Beavs. It pissed me off then, but I get it now. They did kind of air it out against the Beavs. They had a couple. I mean, Torrey had a drop touchdown in that game, but yeah,
it's a more reliable identity, and it's an identity created specifically for this kind of matchup.
Yes, they took some lumps in September. I'd say it was more like, this is why you were willing to have frustrating games against Greeley and UTEP as you ironed out some things. And instead of hanging, 50 on the board and throwing for 500 yards in a game that ultimately is pretty meaningless as long as you win it in the end, they wanted to put themselves in a position that come November, they would be able to play a style of football that translates. And it's what Sonny did. I would say largely it's what McElwain did. I mean, that passing offense in 2014 was legit, but those teams ran the hell out of the football with Capri and D. Hart and those guys. Strong offensive line play, quality front seven. I mean, those have been the foundation of every great CSU team going back to the beginning of the Lubick era.
Correct.
So I understand that it was a bit of culture shock because we expected Nevada's offense, but frankly,
it wasn't as advertised for sure.
No, it wasn't. And they went in and I think they kind of realized it. Like, I don't think this is our best path forward. And credit to them because I think there are a lot of coaches that would have been like, no,
for sure.
We've, for air raid, we put all this branding out, we said all this stuff. And at the end of the day, if you win, it was all worth it. I'm going to get you guys some info on Wyoming. Dre and I are going to do picks, power rankings, all that fun stuff you guys are used to. I do, real quick, want to talk to you guys about Toyota. Trucks have always been a part of Toyota's DNA. For generations, Toyota has built durable legends destined for greatness and perfect for Colorado. So whether you're conquering off-road trails or hauling the weight of the world, there is a Toyota truck that's right for you. Check out the 2024 Tacoma or the iconic Land Cruiser. It's back too. Toyota offers 17 models with available all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive like the Epic 4Runner. They currently offer more low and zero emission vehicles combined than any other automaker to give customers numerous choices to reduce their carbon footprint. With 16 hybrid vehicles to choose from, like the Tundra iForce Max hybrid truck, not to be outdone, Toyota SUVs take command on the road and on the trail, so you can explore the road less traveled without sacrificing smooth city rides. You can take it out to the Western Slope. You can drive it around here in Cap Hill. The perfect vehicle for Colorado. Toyota, a proud partner of CSU Athletics, and of course, the official vehicle of DNVR. Dre, we've got something important we've got to talk about. Men's health.
Yes, it's true.
The fellas, we tend to not make the best decisions when it comes to prioritizing our health.
Bad decisions all around, yeah.
It's just so easy to procrastinate, those yearly checkups that are so important. UC Health, they're trying to change that. They're trying to make it easy. They know we're lazy. They know if we have to jump through hoops, it's not going to happen. So you can schedule online or with their app, which is just an awesome feature. Make sure, guys, I'm serious. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You want to be there for your family, for your friends, for your career. I mean, you want to be around, 20, 30 years from now. Sometimes we're thinking too short term. You want to make sure you're focused on the long-term goal. Hey, much like CSU football was this year, they weren't concerned with the flash in September. It's all about the long-term vision.
Wow.
Make sure you prioritize yourself. Let's talk about your tomorrow. Join the men's health conversation at uchealth.org/men's health. Much love to everybody in the Toyota chat. I think I already said that once, but good morning to everybody rocking with us. Always appreciate you
Aaron
guys.
With a great perspective saying they have a hell freezes over chance at the playoffs in November. It's true. It's true. I mean, think how far they've come. And I still will not get over that Oregon State loss, where that would be...
They'd probably have like a 10% chance if it wasn't for that Oregon State loss, which is...
Man, 100%.
It's a bummer, but I mean, hey, none of us anticipated being in this position.
It puts this season in perspective big time, man.
Yeah, really especially does. Like if I would have said this, post UTEP, where it was like, oh my God, man, like are they gonna go 3-5 in the Mountain West or something like that? I mean, it's been a whirlwind. They've had some lumps, but this team they're peaking at the right time, which is ultimately what you want. But obviously, it's a big test. I mean, there's just so much emotion at stake in this matchup. Obviously, Wyoming wants to win the game. They want the bragging rights. They want to retain the bronze boot, but we've got everything to lose. They've got everything to gain in this situation. That's always kind of an unnerving spot when this is a team that's bullied you for the better part of the last decade, and now you're sitting here as a double-digit favorite trying to make sure you don't shoot yourself in the foot the way they did in 2017, or the old heads out there, they know 96. A Wyoming team, that was their version of the drive. They went 90-plus yards in the last 2 minutes to prevent Sonny Lubick from getting to the WAC title. They're always going to come in there and want to play spoilers, and you're building big tests.
It's kind of their Super Bowl. They have an awful schedule at the Rams, hosting Boise State, at Washington State. You know, if you're Wyoming, you're thinking this is the one. Hurrah. This is our last hurrah. You're coming off your first win since September, so you've got a little momentum. You're hoping to get some extra juice with the new quarterback. You know, it's they're going all in to try and make this work on a short week.
And for the record, like when we say it's their Super Bowl, that's not like a dismissive, you know, like, oh, you know, we're their. I love how much this rivalry means to Wyoming. I love the border war, that it means this much to these communities. I love that you've got over 100 years of history. But that's what you've got to be prepared for, because, you know, we've seen a lot of CSU teams kind of turn their nose up to Wyoming. You know, we'll be fine. We've got all these better athletes, and they come in and they play their ass off because this game means everything to them. Yeah. You can never discount that. They've got a young quarterback who's a nice playmaker. Caden Anderson stepped in for Evan Svoboda. He's QB1 now, was Mountain West Freshman of the Week after a nice game in Albuquerque. Neither of those teams had any interest in playing defense. Yep. It reminded me a lot of like when we were talking about the New Mexico game, of being like, you don't want to get into a shootout with that team because that's exactly where they're comfortable. Credit to Wyoming for finding a way to get it done. I don't know if I've ever seen a team give up 400 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns and win.
It was a surprisingly bad defensive performance for a team that in Mount West play has held all opponents under 30 points. Even held San Jose State to just 24. So kind of shocking.
They looked awful. The tackling was bad.
I mean, a tale of two games, what the Rams did against New Mexico and what Wyoming did.
Yeah.
You know, like completely opposite games. A defensive-minded one for the Rams and just a total shootout for Wyoming. Very crazy.
Well, and it just shows
a week apart from each other, you know?
Yeah, it just shows how different things are week to week. You know, I think at times we can put too much stock into or like trying to compare when the reality is every matchup's going to be different.
Certainly.
Harrison Whaley being back is a massive factor for Wyoming. I had him as the second best running back in the conference coming into the year, suffered a knee injury the week they were supposed to open against Arizona State. He has decided that he's only going to play in 4 games this year. He's going to redshirt and return is what he claims. I was skeptical when I heard that initially. I was like, oh man, interesting plan. You're going to keep his eligibility only for him to go to a P4 team next year. But it sounds like he's got a great relationship with the staff. He'll stick around. I think it makes sense. He's a veteran back. He knows he thrives in the system.
I also don't know how coveted he'll be. He's transferred once from NIU, you know.
It's a good point. I mean, you're already, 5 years into your career.
Right.
It's not like he's 19. But he had 170 yards. New Mexico's defense is atrocious. I think I could probably rush for 50 yards against them. I'm being tongue-in-cheek.
I love this. You got to run low, man. You're tall. You're tall. You got to low to the ground.
I'm not outrunning anybody. I know that. But they've got Jamari Farrell as well. So it's kind of a nice two-headed running back approach. They want to lean on that ground game as well. They want to beat you in the trenches. They still have a good offensive line. It's not the O-line of the last couple years. You know, you lose Frank Crum. That's going to be a big deal. They've also now since had a couple of injuries. So, you know, it's going to be some moving pieces there, but I think for CSU that's got to be an area where you can hopefully capitalize. You know, you've got to be able to effectively stop the run, because if they're going crazy for you, Harrison Whaley's going for 200 yards, that puts you in a pretty precarious position.
Yeah.
You got to stop the run, get them in 3rd and long, and then you hope to pressure the quarterback.
100%. 100%. Get after Anderson, take advantage of the fact that he is inexperienced, contain him well in the pocket. I thought they did a good job of that in the New Mexico game. So, you know,
did a really good job of that. Not as good against Brendan Lewis. He got some. He's one of the better rushing QBs in the country, though.
They kept him scoreless for 3 quarters, you know.
Yeah, so much of that was in garbage time. A lot of that was.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, so it's.
I would have liked to see them finish a little better. But
Lewis was able to get out the pocket from time to time. So they do need to be better about that against Anderson. But yeah, this is the kind of game where the Rams need to get out to a double-digit advantage.
Start quick. You don't want to play from behind.
And then you can really cook them. Then you're really playing into the advantages you've got.
Well, and you're at home. If you start quick, all of a sudden you've got this ruckus home field atmosphere. The fans are going to be into it. If you start slow, that's when you start getting on your heels. You can hear a pin drop, and that's when it turns into the, oh, God, here we go again scenario.
And look, we've seen it from BFN more so last year. He does have that gear where it's like, okay, we got to come back from 17 down and I'm just going to have to stand tough in the pocket and throw lasers. He can do that. We've seen it less this season, but the Rams' identity that they've built this year is not an identity of coming back from big leads.
No, it's establishing the lead and finishing teams, which is
starting games right, getting in that position to then really stifle and close in on Wyoming, I do think is one of the low-key keys for this one.
Well, and I thought you were spot on with bringing up how crucial it was to get that fast start in Reno. I just think that first drive, and you had a couple of big plays, like obviously Dane Olsen made an incredible catch, and then even the second scoring drive, Dane Olsen recovers a fumble, so that's a huge momentum swing, the other way. But I think the fast start is going to be important, especially just given the series history. You've got a lot of guys who've got skeletons in their closet in this matchup, and it's just human nature. Like if you go down 10-0, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't believe we're going to lose this game again. Yeah. It just starts to set in. There starts to be like an inevitability to it all. Point. I think starting fast is big. Doing what you do, obviously, is really big. The Rams have been able to go back-to-back games without a turnover, which has been huge.
While getting a special teams touchdown, while forcing turnovers.
While winning the turnover margin. I think that's a huge factor. If you look back at the last three losses, the Rams are -4 in those 3 games in the turnover margin.
Makes sense.
They were +3 in 2020 when they won that game. They're -6 overall since the start of 2016.
And look, playing a little more conservative means limiting turnovers, Like, yeah, you're sacrificing some big plays, but the reward is you're hoping to have fewer interceptions. You're hoping to control the clock and win those turnover battles. And
I think that's a big factor in this one. Obviously, Braden did not play well against CU. Nobody on the offense played well. I'm not trying to pin that on him or anything, but he struggled. He had a couple of turnovers. That was probably his worst game of the season.
That was ages ago too,
Yeah, it was.
This team's gone through two different iterations.
That big setting, I thought he was so good in that game against Boulder on the road last year, and I thought he hung tough against Air Force at home in a whiteout too. But going on the road against Wyoming last year, that was one of his worst games of the season. That in Utah State, CU, it struggled. Like, here's an opportunity for him and for Norvell to kind of get that monkey off their back in the big time game. You need him to hit some big throws. You need him to stretch the field. Those 3rd and 9s, the sideline routes to Winfield, like those are such big plays. But you gotta be smart. You can't. That's the great equalizer in this one. You throw 2 picks. That's how you let a Wyoming offense that hasn't done a ton this year. They're coming off of a good game, but that's how you give a team on the road confidence.
1,000%. I really think, just winning the fundamentals, winning some of the more basic metrics is going to translate in a big way for the Rams in this matchup in particular. How beloved is Olsen on campus? Have we reached Headband Joe levels?
I don't know if he's quite there. Part of it is with the football guys because you don't get to see their face as much. But yeah, he's the total glue guy. Everybody loves him. And he's been an important player, man. Last blocked a punt this year. Like, he's making big time catches on 3rd down.
On a great story. Everyone roots for the former walk-on.
Oh, it's just a cool story. And he couldn't be more down to earth about it. Another piece I wrote about 2 weeks ago.
Big factor.
Dane Olsen, he was just like, I just wanted to prove that I belong here. And he's done that and then some.
Great plug.
Get after the QB, guys. Wyoming's given up 19 sacks. They're down another starter, so they only have 2 original starters from the beginning of the year. You've got a young quarterback back there. We've seen CSU generate a lot of pressure of late, but again, you want to do it like New Mexico, where it's contained pressure. You're getting after him. Just don't lose those rushing lanes and give them an opportunity to improvise, because Anderson displayed some of that. Again, New Mexico's defense, atrocious, but he does have some of that playmaking ability. They play with a little bit more tempo, and those are just like the back-breaking plays that kill you. When you've got 2 guys in the backfield and you let them slip out, and instead of a loss of 7, it's a gain of 8. Like, those are the
100%, man.
The games or the plays that really can flip a game.
And to me, it's less about like generating sacks and the pressure metrics. It's creating that consistent push that we've seen the last several weeks. Just
get in his face a little bit, Can you generate some pressure in the interior? The defensive tackles have been so good.
And then that translates on run defense too,
Yeah. It's the little things, man. That's CSU's winning in the trenches. They're winning on 3rd down. They're not turning the ball over. They're big on special teams.
I think that's a key as well.
Yeah, and I mean, even Jay Norvell was talking about it. He was like, special teams for CSU have been tremendous this year. You know, you look at the average start drive, you know, for a lot of the teams in conference play, CSU's doing a great job of backing them up, like not just inside the 20, inside the 10 a lot of the time. You know, a lot of these games, the Rams are like plus 20 in average field position difference. That's a huge deal. It's hard, especially for a team like Wyoming, who, you know,
this defense has felt like you need to string together like 10 play drives to get anywhere.
Yeah,
and
they've been so
special
stout.
teams as part of that. You know,
you're getting and you're taking advantage of it. You know, there was
and then the kicks, man. Like nailing 60 when you're not even at altitude in Colorado. No, I don't know. Maybe Nevada is. That's
Reno is decent altitude, actually.
But it's not.
That would have been good from 65.
It's nuts.
And
That's also a huge advantage.
Kevin Lytle asked Norvell about it post game, and he's like, "We would have let him try it from further. We feel confidence with him and why wouldn't you at this point?"
That's a massive weapon in a matchup where the line's 9.5, but you're feeling like it could easily be a 1-score game. Having a kicker like that's a weapon, man.
It's huge. And we've seen multiple guys. I mean, what's funny, CSU has 3 different guys right now, I believe, with 5 or more punts inside the 20 because BFN's done it like 5 times on pooch kicks. They've had Brian Hansen, the backup kicker, step up for Patty Turner while he's dealing with a hamstring issue. He's been tremendous. I mean, that it's been the big difference this year. They've returned a kick. They've returned a couple punts. They blocked a kick against Air Force. They blocked a punt against UTEP. Like, those are such massive momentum swinging plays
against Nevada. You know, look, it's just,
never
it's
seen a team score that way in my life.
Insane. And wait, it's a lot. I'm so glad the commentators are going, it's a live ball. It's a live ball.
Well, I'm flipping out, screaming at the TV, and Courtney is looking at me like, is it? I was like, I think so. I'm pretty sure that's a touchdown.
That's nuts.
But hey, like, you know, Nevada biffed it on that play, but it was the product of hustle from CSU. I mean, Caleb Goody blew his ass up.
Yeah.
And they had 3 dudes there that were in position to recover the football. It's the little things. The Rams they're doing the things that increase your winning margins that teams with a lot of talent in years past just let slip through the cracks. And I think it's attention to detail. I think it's focus. I think it's a mentality. And I think that the style change has been a big factor too. I think it's benefited the offense. I think it's benefited the defense, who's, you know, not had to be on the field as much because you're having less of those 3 and outs where it's incomplete. We were on the field for 38 seconds. I like the way this team is playing right now, but you know, I've said it a million times. This one is just different. You know, this one means more. We feel really good. Now go out and do it against Wyoming on a night you need to win. We're going to get into our Mountain West power rankings here. Give a brief recruiting update. I'm going to kind of glance over that because I'll do a full breakdown tomorrow with signing day, the early signing period coming up. I'll give you an update. Real quick, though, who do we got? We have got Coors Light.
Yeah, are you choosing chill, bro?
I'm always choosing chill.
Are you though?
No, I'm not. But I'm trying. I'm trying to choose.
It's gonna
chill.
be hard to choose chill on Friday night for you, for example.
Oh, it's gonna be incredibly challenging. I might have to get a couple of packs of Zins for that game just so I don't pull my hair out in the press box. But between work, social media, rivalry games, it's no wonder we're worked up, guys. Coors Light celebrates rising above and choosing a chill mindset. It's all about the little things each and every day. You know, whether it's doing your breathing exercises, getting exercise, praying to whoever you believe in before your team plays a rivalry game that makes you want to crap your pants.
Doing things that relax you.
Put you in the chill state of mind so you're feeling good, you're kicking back, you're chilling. And then, you know, once you're in that good state of mind, crack open an ice cold Coors Light when the mountains turn blue. Cold as the Rockies, cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged. They're doing everything they can to get you that smooth finish. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light.
There's our guy.
Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Nailed it. And
Canes,
dude,
baby.
Could I go for some chicken fingies right now? The Canes way. That's right. Raising Canes always got you right. J Mike has the pro move where you take the chicken fingers, take the Texas toast, boomsy sandwich, you put some cane sauce on it. Where's the slaw go in all this?
So I usually just substitute an extra piece of toast for the slaw.
That's the move. Producer Riley nodding vehemently that in fact is the move. I love me some good Canes. The Office here on Colfax in New York, we need a Canes close to us, but luckily you can always turbocharge your order of hand-battered chicken fingers and race into Raising Canes. Or if you're like us and you're away from one, you can get that delivered to you, raisingcanes.com, or through their mobile app, Raising Canes Chicken Finger. One love, yo. So they're the homies. Shout out to Raising Canes.
I'm going to go to Raising Canes today.
Sounds amazing.
After this, we get the draft pod. Then I got to go back up for basketball practice. I'm going to have some hoops content coming out your way. Doing everything I can, guys, to keep you up to date with both of these teams. The overlap is challenging, but it's been fun.
It's amazing.
CSU football 2025 recruiting update.
Twice already.
I know.
Adam just spilled like all over his laptop on one show.
I believe that.
Yeah,
I believe that
can happen.
The Rams picked up a nice commitment last night from Javion Kennard, commits to CSU over Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, Marshall, Toledo, Arkansas State, a bunch of offers, but Ole Miss and Vanderbilt were probably the most prominent offers that he had. 5'9", 160-pound athlete at a Pearl Cone High School out in Nashville, Tennessee. He's the kind of guy, as one of the staff members told me, you're just going to get the rock in his hands. He is being recruited as a running back / wide receiver, 5'9", 160, shifty guy. One of the most dynamic return men in the entire country. You watch this guy on video, and he stands out. He is incredibly quick. He's got great vision, great balance. He's
Super
exciting.
Just what the doctor ordered, honestly, right? Like, as you're building this more meat and potatoes inside out first program, you need a few like
some home run
playmakers
hitters.
like that. He sounds a lot like Dylan Edwards type, who transferred from
great
CU
comp.
to Kansas
That's
State.
a really good
And
comp.
honestly, this team feels like it's building some Kansas State type.
Yeah, that's
vibes,
a
right?
really good comp.
And that next step for Kansas State was adding a few more playmakers.
Well, and
that
just
could then
how you keep them off
differentiate you.
balance,
Yep.
you know, like you like what you've got with Justin Marshall, but I think
100%,
Kennard brings a little bit
100%.
more as a pass catcher, which is nice.
Yeah.
You just want that versatility, and frankly, CSU has been a big proponent of, if you have star athletes, they're willing to put them back as punt returners, as kick returners. Just having those types of guys who 2-3 times a year might flip a game on one touch,
and an added emphasis on special teams. Well, yeah, a dynamic returner will go a long way with them.
He has a 2002 all-purpose yards, 885 rushing, 584 receiving. DNVR diehards, keep your eyes on the site. I'll have a written breakdown where I kind of break down what stands out to him on Huddle and all that this afternoon. We got a lot going on right now. Basketball, football, recruiting. It's fun time to be a Ram fan. Great time to become a DNVR diehard.
Where would he rank in like the recruits they've been able to lock down so far this cycle? Would he be like your top rated guy or up there?
He's up there, probably top 3. There's a couple of defensive linemen that they're recruiting that I really am pretty high on out of Arizona. I really like what they're doing in the trenches. Their O-line recruiting has been solid the last couple of years. Obviously, we're seeing that come to fruition. But yeah, I think from a playmaking standpoint, he's up there along with Taylor. I'm drawing a blank on his first name, wide receiver out of Alabama, speedster. Putting together a really nice class, though. They did have a couple of decommits. You lost a couple of receivers to Power 4 schools. Part of the process. It is what it is. Big schools lose guys to flips, too. That's just how it works. But I really like the guys they've added as late. So, again, keep an eye out on all of that. Let's get into the Mountain West Power Rankings. We've talked a lot about what's at stake for CSU and Wyoming. Let's kind of give an update on the league as a whole, because the Rams have legitimate Mountain West championship aspirations right now.
Do they ever?
I'll talk more about Wyoming tomorrow as well in the 10 a.m. show. Obviously, we'll go post game as well. Air Force has got to have them at the bottom. They did pull off a home win over Fresno State. Kudos to them.
Yeah.
But still, there's just I don't know how you would have anybody other than them at the bottom at this point.
Yeah, hasn't been great. Has not been great. Nevada, their conference record is worse.
That's where I really struggled.
They've been friskier though. Like, I think you're right in
They're the
having
better
Nevada
team.
at 10. Utah State's maybe the different argument, but yeah, no, I mean, I think that's clearly the bottom of the conference, as we've kind of said.
I'm really interested to see what happens with Utah State. They don't have much to play for at this point.
Yeah.
They do host Hawaii, and we'll get into that in our picks. A big game for Hawaii. They need that one for bowl eligibility. I'm really, I want to see what type of pulse they have, because I think if you can win this one, if you're CSU, if you can win this one, and then you can win a tricky game on the road against Fresno, I don't anticipate a potentially, 1-9 or 2-8, whatever Utah State team coming in with a lot of fight. Again, you can't overlook anybody, but it's just human nature.
Yeah.
Nevada, they've lost some tough ones, but I think if you had to say out of these teams, these bottom three, like, I would like their odds of winning more times than not.
Yeah, I would agree. Utah State, the only case is they've had some tougher teams on the
Utah
schedule.
State's played a brutal schedule. They have played probably the hardest schedule in the conference this year.
Yeah.
So in their defense, especially after everything that happened in the offseason, not an easy spot. But
no doubt.
It is what it is. Wyoming up to 9. They're frisky. They've been in every league game. They're 2-7, 2-3 overall. I was very impressed going out and beating a frisky New Mexico team after losing in a heartbreaking fashion at home to San Diego State the way they did. Showed a lot of fight there.
Right.
I'd say the same thing about New Mexico, though, who recovered and beat San Diego State after losing to Wyoming. San Diego State no longer likely in the bowl mix, technically, if they went out, but they've got to play UNLV and Boise still, I think, so that's not happening. But that's where we're at. I've got Wyoming 9, San Diego State 8, New Mexico 7. Any disagreements there?
No, I would agree that, Wyoming, San Diego, kind of a San Diego State tier of their own. New Mexico, a little more friskiness, a little higher, but they have cooled off from what we were seeing earlier in the season.
Well,
honestly, that first half in Auburn, we all overreact. It's like the Twitter overreactions, and then
Auburn's atrocious.
We don't catch up. They were, and especially terrible back then. They had extra terrible.
They were like 1-5 to begin the year.
Yes.
Yeah, New Mexico, much like if you're CSU, you look back on that Oregon State game, that one's going to sting. That Wyoming loss is going to hurt, because that's probably going to be what ultimately keeps them out of a bowl game. They've got Washington State this weekend.
Which crazy all they went through that they could have been that close to sniffing a bowl game, man.
Yeah, I think their win total was 1.5.
Not bad.
Them and Nevada both. It was both 1 or 1.5. So kudos to them for playing a lot harder. Fresno State, man, they're trending in the wrong direction. I went back and forth on this if I should put them ahead or above New Mexico. Honestly, I put them above just because I don't want to jinx it.
Right. I think you're right, man.
Fresno's
their schedule hasn't been the easiest,
no,
and
it
they
hasn't.
boat raced New Mexico to start the year.
That's the thing too. The head-to-head was I think I got to put Fresno. It doesn't always matter. San Jose State, for instance, lost to Fresno, but Fresno now lost to Hawaii and Air Force.
That's the big one. The big one. But they did beat San Jose State. And the other losses they have on the schedule, Washington State, UNLV, Michigan, that's...
They're not losing to bad teams.
Yeah, 100%. So Fresno kind of feels like in a tier. I guess Fresno and Hawaii are in their own tier, and Hawaii with the head-to-head.
It's just kind of any given day. Who are you?
Head-to-head at Fresno, too.
Which was impressive, yeah. Hawaii almost took down UNLV. I've got them at 5. They're 4-6. They've got Utah State and New Mexico. They got to win both to get into a bowl.
So frisky.
I'm pulling for them. Come on, Timmy Chang. San Jose State back up to 4. They're 6-3, 3-2 in the league, but again, not a team that has really many bad losses. They've got a couple of decent wins. That offense is tough. We're going to talk about Nick Nash on the draft pod.
Yeah.
They're a fun team to watch. They're if they're on the random CW game at 1 p.m. and the 10 a.m. games kind of suck at that point, I'm just I'll watch San Jose State, Oregon State for a few.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of feel like them and the Rams are in a similar tier with each other. So I'm surprised to see UNLV here at 3.
So I jumped CSU to 2 last week, which is the highest that I'd had them. That was UNLV coming off of a loss. I didn't feel like they did enough against Hawaii to justify jumping CSU.
No, I think
they are the better team. If you ask me who's the better team, who has more talent, UNLV does.
Feels like they've played 2 games in the last 30 days. So that's part of they started off so fast, then the quarterback change happens.
They have had 2 byes in the last 5 or 6 weeks, which has been weird.
It's felt like it. And then, at first the quarterback switch didn't really impact them much. So I think that's still kind of the perception. And I think it has.
I think it has a little bit.
I don't think they're the same juggernaut we were like high on at the beginning of the season. Now, that win over Kansas looks a lot better now, as does the win over Houston. Yeah, UNLV is a weird one.
And I think you could make a valid argument either way, where it's like if you really wanted to stump for UNLV overall this year, they've had a great year. I think you could argue CSU right now maybe playing a little bit better.
I would agree.
But yeah, I mean,
also, if the Oregon State game just ends differently, it's probably not even a conversation.
Yeah, I don't even think you debate it at that point. But it's fun that the Rams are even in this position. That it's like, it's not, well, do we put them in at 9 or 8? It's 3
amazing.
or 2. It's a fun spot to be in.
100%.
Boise State obviously staying at 1. They're 8-1, 5-0 overall. Nevada gave them a scare though. They were in that game.
Surprising, because Genty led the nation in rushing that game that week as well with his performance. So they needed everything. Look, man, they are very one-dimensional.
If you can stop him, Madsen is very pedestrian.
Oh, no,
he makes good decisions, but like throwing the football, he is very pedestrian.
I think you might be even generous there, frankly. And they're fine, right? On defense and on
secondary is nothing
O-line.
special.
They're not. Honestly, the biggest difference between them and the Rams is truly just Genty.
Yeah.
Like the other area, I don't, blind test. I don't know that you take Boise's defense over the Rams with how they've played the last month. I don't know that you take Boise's O-line over the Rams with how they've played the last month. And I would absolutely take BFN over Madsen. So
D-line, I think, is a debate. I would take CSU's O-line. With how they're playing right now, yeah, you might be right, man. Kershke's really popping. If they can get newer
also,
going here.
Maybe you do take Boise's D-line. Do you take Boise's linebackers over the Rams? Because Boomjock and Wilson, man.
It's a nice... And they've got some young guys that are coming in making plays, too.
I was asking you about Adrian Hector before we got on air. I thought he was really impressive. And,
Hector had a real nice game. He's going to be important this weekend as well. No Jack Howell, which is a significant loss. Sounds
Bummer.
like Turner... Patty Turner and Jacob Gardner both questionable.
Oof, that stinks.
My gut is Gardner will play. That dude's pretty tough. Trevin Heil has played well, and since he had to go in for him. But obviously, just in this type of matchup, you want to have your center. He's such an important piece of making the calls at the line of scrimmage, and just having that stability in the interior is so big. Real quick, before we do these Week 12 picks and get out of here, who's your Heisman pick as of now?
For me, it'd firmly be a Genty, Travis Hunter conversation.
Yeah, I think those are the top two guys. I think if CU wins the Big 12, I think Hunter will win the Heisman. I do.
We talk about this a lot when it comes to Heisman. I think one of the two needs to have their Heisman moment in November.
GNT would benefit greatly from like a 300-yard game to just really cement it of he has done this since the beginning of the season.
Problem is, I don't know that that's enough anymore. Like,
I don't know
he just did that against Nevada. He led the country in rushing for that single week with 209 and 3 tuds.
Who would be
the problem is it's like the average rush yards per carry has gone way down.
Oh, yeah, because teams are just putting 10 in the box.
Well, rightfully so. And I mean, he's still like running it 30 times a game and getting 6.1 a clip, which is insane.
But it was like 10 yards a carry for a while.
Yeah, and if you don't have an opportunity to have that Heisman moment, like I don't know that the San Jose State game's enough high profile, or the Wyoming game or the Oregon State game. It's going to be tough. Hunter could have the opportunity of, winning the Big 12. And I still think there could be another dark horse to emerge. Yeah.
There's a QB that'll make it interesting. And Milroe is the one that people wrote off way too early.
Really watch for.
Especially if Bama wins the SEC. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Week 12 picks. Got a decent slate. Not great, but not bad either. Hawaii, 2.5-point favorites in Logan. Warriors looking to keep their postseason hopes alive. They win this one. They've got a win or go home game against New Mexico next weekend, who could potentially be in the same spot if they can beat Washington State. But Hawaii, 2.5-point favorites in Logan. Where are you going?
Kind of a bait line.
They're daring you to take Utah State.
I think they're daring you to lay the points on a Hawaii.
I thought it should be a bigger spread, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Your eye jumps to like, oh wow, I got some free money on Hawaii. Never free money. It's just like I believe in that Utah State offense. That's at least
Hawaii's defense is decent. They force turnovers.
Yeah, they've kind of fought on the road. This is one where I would just spare yourself that little bit of value. Take the Hawaii money line at -135. Don't mess with the spread.
That's good advice. I'll say Hawaii covers the 2.5 barely. I think they win by like 3.
The book is daring you to take Hawaii. That's all I want to say.
Dre knows what he's talking about. Air Force hosting Oregon State. Oregon State, 3.5-point favorites on the road. They've kind of fallen apart. Injuries have added up. They got a good running game still with Hankerson.
And Air Force is keeping every game closer than they should.
I'm going to take Air Force outright. I'm going to say they win this game.
Jeez, +145 on the money. It's not even crazy value. So the book's like, yeah, you might be right. The hook scares me. This is one parlay the Air Force spread with the Hawaii money line.
I like that. I'm going to say the Border Wars. Boise, 13.5-point favorites at San Jose State. Do they win by 2 touchdowns? Can San Jose State's offense do enough to hang around?
You said their secondary is not great.
It's not.
They might be.
I can tell you that Boise State fans, if you look at like their posts and stuff, and I'm friends with a few, they're terrified of Nick Nash.
So just like the Hawaii line, I think this is one where Boise State, obviously being ranked 13th, their only losses to Oregon, the number 1 team in the country, undefeated Big Ten finalists, probably. And they're overrating Boise State and underrating San Jose State.
I'm with you. I think San Jose State covers that.
Yeah, this feels like more of a 7.5, I think would have been more appropriate.
I'm with you. Like, does Boise maybe win this by 10, 11? Sure, but 2 touchdowns with the way and the thing about San Jose State too, they're quick strike. So they could go down 21 and then all of a sudden 2 Nick Nash plays,
yes,
and it's a 1-score game.
And vice versa, if they hit a couple quick ones,
if you can get
and
a lead,
all of a sudden Boise's down 10, down 14. Crowd gets
We are
hyped.
San Jose State fans,
And
I will say.
It's November. It's upset time.
Yeah.
Like the upsets happen when you least expect them. Yeah, give me San Jose. I'm sprinkling that +400 money line.
There is a path
We've
to
talked
CSU
ourselves
hosting the title game if Boise drops one. So poll for San Jose State.
Yes.
Wazoo, Washington State, 10-point favorites in Albuquerque.
Which also, like, is the book overrating New Mexico, or do they know something we don't? By the way, I think this is moved to 11.
11, okay. I mean, Mateer's been solid for Washington State. Admittedly, I feel like I've only watched them like once or twice this year.
Thing. Like all these games, it's like I was so surprised to see them ranked
very
a
quietly
couple weeks
7-1.
Yeah,
I'll say
it's a bait line. I've taken the dogs on everything, so give me Wazoo, but it concerns me. And again, the same. It's November, like Wazoo's sneaky thinking like we
can
have
get in the
this,
playoffs,
right,
maybe.
Right. This could be the one where it all falls apart. So give me
Washington State as well. I think it'd be a fun story to see New Mexico win it, but
reach bowl eligibility that way.
That'd be incredible.
Legendary.
Oh, then we could have a winner go home for New Mexico versus Hawaii on the island next week, which would be amazing.
I have to fly you out for that.
I'll have to hit up Timmy Chang and be like, I have been on brand.
It's so true.
San Diego State at UNLV. UNLV 20.5-point favorites against the Aztecs. San Diego State's kind of falling apart here. But I don't know if UNLV is That feels like a week 4 UNLV line.
Yes,
Is it a
yes,
week 12
yes.
UNLV line? I don't know. Give me San Diego State to hang. I think they can lose by 19.
Shit. Yeah, I agree. It's bad when we like all the dogs.
I know.
Also, though, it feels like these lines are off.
They're high. They're
Feels
really
like the
high.
book's not dialed on the Mountain West.
We're either going to look really smart or Vegas is going to laugh in our faces this weekend and be like, see, we are never wrong.
Border war.
Border war.
Time.
10-point spread as of this morning. I'm surprised it hasn't gone down yet the closer we've gotten to game day.
You won't believe it.
CSU
We
and,
like the dog.
CSU and CU are the only teams in the country, according to Barstool, that have covered every single conference game. So fun little
Craziness.
stat for you.
Craziness.
I think Wyoming covers 10, but I think CSU wins the game.
Yes, I agree on both counts.
I would love to be like, no, we're going to kick their
Yeah.
ass. You know, it's going to be a 20-point win. But
I just
I just
don't
have too
think
much
it's gonna be
respect
that
for
easy.
that roster. They've got a lot of veterans. I think Whaley being back is a massive factor. With no Whaley,
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
CSU probably covers that 10
Exactly.
fairly easily.
Also, this is your brand. Like, no one more than Justin Michael has told us, don't underrate rivalries.
It's
Like,
just a great
when it's
equalizer.
a rivalry, it's never as easy as it seems. Yes, it's not Craig Bull, but there's some continuity from his staff, right?
There is a Bull on the, and Aaron Bull's the DC, so there's still some Bull presence lingering.
Oh, yeah.
I do like though the Rams. Trey McBride's going to be in the building, so the vibes in our favor.
That is big. That is big. With a minute or two to spare. Okay. Who says no to this parlay? Hawaii money line. Air Force, I'm buying it up to plus 7.5.
Okay,
San Jose State plus 13.5. New Mexico plus 14.5. Bought that one up too. San Diego State plus 20.5. I just hate putting Wyoming plus 9.5 in here.
what's the over under?
47. I hate that too.
That's well set.
I could buy that in one direction or another, like Wyoming plus 12.5 to feel safer. There is part of me that's like, CU's barely allowed a touchdown against Dampier and Brendan Lewis, like two of the more veteran.
They played really well in conference
Okay,
play.
I'm staying away from that one.
Let's
and
just do the
it's
other
going
ones.
to be plus 13.18.
Little Mountain West smorgasbord.
West, yes, exactly. We're
I like
placing
it.
that, and then I sprinkled San Jose State on the money line, just for fun.
Shout out to everybody. Go get that boot. Bring it
Damn
home.
straight.
Always proud to be. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.